Hey guys, my name is Sam,
I'm Belize.
and this is Heartbreaker Films Spooky Edition.
Spooky edition.
Fall in love with the jack-o'-lanterns and the hot cocoa and witches. Spooky vibe.
Hot
What are we
cocoa
talking
and
about today?
Halloween.
Hey Belize,
Hey Sam, what's up?
what are we watching today? Walk me through it.
We are going to be watching the Bewitched movie with Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell.
I still can't believe to this day that they were like cast in a film apart across from each other. Like that just was like whoever came up with that, brilliant.
Honestly, yeah, I feel like this would be one of the few contexts in which I would believe that this is a good match for on-screen chemistry kind of thing.
But since this was your pick, do you want to give the log line?
A young witch comes to Earth with the hopes of being normal, but when she runs into an LA actor, it becomes anything but.
Ooh, I love that. I would add in with the hopes of falling in love.
Very true. Yes, I agree.
This film feels very like Charlie Kaufman-esque, which like it's just very like meta humor. There's one line in the film that I think perfectly encapsulates like what the main character's goal is overarching. And it's when she wakes up and turns to her cat and she goes, "Last night something magical happened all on its own." Do you agree?
I agree. That's a great observation. I did not even think of that as, yeah, I have nothing to add to that.
We're done. Bye.
Goodbye, we're done. That's it.
So, Belize, what is the plot line? Who are the players? What is the main goal of this film?
Two main players are going to be Isabella and then Jack. And I feel like I should know his last name, but I can't remember it right now, even though they say it so many times because he is an actor.
But I love how obnoxious they make him. I always find it very funny whenever movies are being made about making movies because I feel like the actors finally get a chance to like make fun of A, themselves, but B, the people they work with. Like the agent is just such a douche, but it's Jack Wyatt. His name is Jack Wyatt.
Perfect, Jack Wyatt. There we go. Yeah, and I don't know what his agent, manager, whoever, I don't know what that person's name is at all, but he's a big player as well in terms of screwing over everyone. Besides that, the main players are going to be Isadora. There are so many characters that I honestly don't know their names. There's her next door. Let me really quickly.
Let's look it up. Let's look it up.
Yeah, just before we sound real stupid the whole time. Endora. Okay, why am I saying Isadora?
Oh, can we talk about how like crazy star-studded this cast is?
I was right about the Nigel Bigelow. I'm happy about that. Sorry.
I know that the co-worker's name is Nina.
So our main two players are going to be Isabella and Jack Wyatt. Sam remembered his last name before I did, so thank you, Sam. Star-crossed lovers, not really, so I don't even want to say that term, but kind of, since they are from different worlds. But then we have Isabella's father, who is Nigel Bigelow. We have her neighbor, Maria, and her friend from the TV show named Nina. And over on Jack's end, we have his manager. And I should have looked at his name, but honestly, I didn't look up his name because I did not care, because I feel like he needs to be spoken of as just the agent.
Yeah.
And then we have all the TV network people, which there are so many of them that we're not going to go into it. And then we have Endora.
First of all, I miss the time period in which, like, I feel like right after Wicked hit Broadway, Kristen Chenoweth started getting all of these movie roles, and she always plays like Kristen Chenoweth, but I love it, and I felt like this is a perfect place to put her. Michael Caine as Nicole Kidman's father, brilliant. Brilliant casting. I love him. If I was pitched this cast, this lineup, I would think you're bullshitting. And Jason Schwartzman as the manager, I just feel like this lineup would never exist in any other like spectrum of the universe ever again. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Stephen Colbert?
Yes, I was going to mention that because it's like a young Stephen Colbert, and I have no idea why he is in this, but it's amazing. He does a great job.
Oh, I feel like the actors did this film for the same reason that the people in the film love the TV show. And it's because they just want to be a part of remaking this TV show, you know? So like in terms of plot, Let me see if I can get this straight.
One other character that is a part of the star-studdedness is going to be Steve Carell. I cannot go on without mentioning my boy Steve Carell from The Office and Crazy Stupid Love, which we will get to at some point because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, so just wanted to say that.
Forgot he was there. And now I feel blasphemous.
So you wanted to walk us through the plot line?
I'm gonna try to walk us through the plot. That's why I'm saying this is like a Charlie Kaufman-esque meta humor rom-com. So essentially, Bewitched, the TV show. Have you seen the TV show? I have to ask.
I have not. I've been wanting to. And the amount to which this movie makes me feel like I've seen it without having seen it is amazing. It's really well done.
I'm actually kind of shocked that you love this film so much if you haven't seen the original TV show, because this film, I feel like the whole humor of it is constantly paying homage to the TV show.
Yes. And the reason why it works for me, and the reason, and I did watch it yesterday with my roommate again, and she had not seen a TV show either, and it worked for her as well, is because they do a really good job of showing clips from the show as well as talking about characters and character tropes from the show. So one thing that she pointed out was that when we do meet Uncle Arthur later on at the end, by then we already know what to expect. We already know that he's coming. We already know that he's going to crack the mirror because they've talked about it. So they do just a really good job, since everyone's such a big fan, of just reinstilling into you the different tropes and everything like that that's happened. And since we see them filming parts of the show too, and it's a remake, it's pretty easy to quickly get what it is. And so it's one of those things where I feel like it's the idea of, if I was to make a movie of where they're remaking I Love Lucy, I feel like you can do it in a way where, since a lot of I Love Lucy episodes, they're all great, I love them, but I feel like it's a similar thing where it's like, if you've seen one, you kind of know what they're all going to be in terms of the vibe. So since we basically see an episode's worth of Bewitched, the show, in this, in terms of how it's being talked about and everything, I feel like I get the vibe enough to know exactly what that show is and not need to see it. I'm not saying I don't want to. It's on my list, but I didn't at all feel uncomfortable or feel left out, because they make it known what the inside jokes are. Like at the end, when they move into the new house and there are the neighbors there, and they're like, oh my God, and they're like so tropey and so clearly like these from the show, without them even having to tell us, hey, these are also characters in the original show. I was like, I get it. I can tell right away based on how cartoonish they're acting.
I love that you picked up on the neighbors, because they are like a huge thing in the original TV show. Me and my college roommate spent like, I think a good solid 2 months just watching every single night, because we had the box set of the TV show, watching episodes from the series. And you're 100% right, because back during that time period, television was more episodic and less serialized. So it basically is like the new bit every day, but you nailed it right on the head. You don't need to watch the show to understand the film, because the film is basically a retelling of the show, but in a modern twist. So essentially, Isabel Bigelow is a witch from another dimension who wants to fall in love. And she wants to come to the human realm and feel messy and sloppy and out of control, because as a witch, she has complete control over her life. And she wants to find a man who actually needs her, who needs her to help him in a way that powers can't fathom. Because she comes from a family with a kind of a scoundrel of a father and a mother we never talk about. So she comes to this human world and runs into Jack Wyatt in a similar manner that Samantha and Darren run into each other and run into each other and run into each other. Jack Wyatt is a washed-up film star who just left a nasty divorce and who's going to TV to recreate Bewitched, the classic TV show. He's searching for the perfect Samantha, and lo and behold, he finds himself a real live witch. So Isabel Bigelow has to hide the fact that she's a witch in the same vein that Samantha hid the fact that she's a witch while being a housewife and the perfect, host to Darren's friends. But Isabel has to do it by being a single working woman in the early 2000s. Brilliant. But as the story is unfolding, they really do fall in love. And it happens naturally without any magic involved. And the thing I like about the film is that it points out in the most absurdist manner how sexist Bewitched was. essentially the whole bit of the TV show is that this woman is giving away her power to become a housewife. So I really like the way they remade it, but the thing that I thought was very meta humor was just how like goofy and practical all the effects were. I didn't notice until you pointed it out that the fact that they show you filming Bewitched kind of shows why like they cast Will Ferrell as Darren. They need someone over the top. They need someone to just be like super insane because that's how sitcoms were made in the 50s, you know? Like all the practical magic of like, oh, they were trying to shoot this film in the same manner that they shot the comedy style of the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job of explaining it. I think they have a really fun way of I just really liked how they incorporate different characters from the magical realm. And something I realized this time was that everyone who is a witch in the TV show is a witch in the movie. Like even Endora is an actual witch. And I really like that it's not just the actress playing Endora, it's actually the actress is a witch herself. So they kept all the magical elements from the original show. So the reason why I really like that is because it's almost saying like if the show is like the Bible of this realm, they're not changing any of that. It's not like in this realm Endora is just an actress or anything like that. It's like nope, if they're magical in the show, they are definitely magical here, and they're acting the same exact way, but now it's in the 2000s. And I think they have so much fun with so many of the effects. I agree that that's a good note. I think that makes a lot of sense as to why it would be Will Ferrell then, with all the falling and everything and the absurdist comedy with it. And then I love all the jokes they do in terms of Nigel Bigelow. I love his different appearances everywhere because this is a very different kind of comedy where it's just he'll just be in a different carton or like on a milk box or whatever, and then he's suddenly the grocer in the store. And my favorite one is when he literally walks through an actual backdrop on the set, and they just wheel away the backdrop and it's suddenly no longer real.
All the bits with Nigel Bigelow are what they did with Endora. In the TV show, you never know when Endora is going to show up, and she always shows up in some like weird magical like fluff of smoke or whatever the hell. And so they did the same thing in the movie, but with Nigel. And I thought that was so brilliant.
I was going to ask, the only one I'm not sure about whether or not they're in the show or not is Nigel. I was wondering if it's the father figure instead of the mother figure so they don't have two Endoras in the same realm. And yeah, because I definitely do see that it's Nigel and Endora are very similar to each other. Does Nigel exist in the original show?
In the episodes that I saw, I didn't see Nigel personally. It's all Endora, but like there's a lot of seasons of the show and we bounced around. So perhaps he does show up, but from what I saw, it is like not at all. No one talks about the dad.
It would make a lot of sense if they would create that character for this situation, just so that they don't have two mother figures. And I also think it speaks a lot to have her be talking to her father about love and everything like that, because then you literally see her relationship with her father paralleled through the whole thing. But
That doesn't happen often in romance films. It's always like the girl turning to her mother. And I love that. And I love the fact that the dad is like a really good dad. He's just a messy husband. Like he's not a good partner, but he really cares about his daughter. Like he really, really cares about her. And I thought the on-screen chemistry between Nicole Kidman and Michael Caine was perfect. Like I would see those two actors in a film together. I definitely would. They match. So the fact that they have such an intimate relation in this film made me so happy. I thought they did a great job. And I love the fact that Endora's magic is like kept hidden. Like you don't know if she's a witch. You don't know if she caught her. She thinks that the ear twitch, which was brilliant by the way. That instead of a nose wiggle, like this is fake, but this is real. You know, like she tugs on her ear to make a spell happen, and Endora thinks it's like an actor twitch. But then you find out later that like no, she knew it was magic. She's just letting her know that it was obvious. I feel like feminine prowess and like the feminine mystique is essentially a part of her magic in this film, because when we find out she's a witch, it's because she keeps it secret so that Nigel, whenever he's flirting around with other women, she can just like, in the background kind of sabotage it without ever making herself look bad.
I agree. Yeah, I think they do a really good job. And I feel like that's almost why it's done in that way where she says it's an actor's twitch. It's not because she doesn't know that Isabel is a witch. She knows she's just not going to give away that she's a witch. So she's like, how do I say this? Probably the smartest of all the characters.
There's a reason why Iris, who plays Endora in the show within the movie, comes on the screen. They all like cheer and applaud and go nuts. It's because Endora was the fan favorite. Like Endora is the best character. She's the one that has all the fun.
Wow. I also love that the whole when she appears and she'll just thank them and they're like, can you please stop?
Please stop it. And like no one gives a shit. I would definitely consider this movie to be a magical realism film. When the film opens, magic and reality are two separate lines. Even her magic is a lot more magnified. It's just magnified. And then as the film progresses, her magic becomes more like practical. You know, up until like the broomstick and the rewind, which I thought was brilliant. But as the film continues and reality and the magical realm start to intermingle, you don't know where the movie ends and the TV show begins. Then you see Aunt Clara show up with the bag of doorknobs, and that is literally Aunt Clara from the show. But Isabel knows her and like is like, oh, this is my Aunt Clara. And she's giving advice the same way Aunt Clara would in the show. Like Aunt Clara reveals magic all the time, but everyone just thinks she's so nuts. It's the same thing in the TV show. Like no one wants to believe her. Like in the Salem witch trials, like the second you sneezed wrong, they're like, oh, a witch. And the TV show, it's like, okay, sweetie, oh, bonker. Someone needs their coffee this morning, you know? But as the film progresses, like magic intermingles, Aunt Clara shows up, Uncle Arthur shows up in the mirror, but that's an apparition for Jack Wyatt, or is it not? Is it really a warlock who came in? You know, it's so, I love it. I think they did a beautiful job. And even them falling in love is just so wackadoodle. It's just so like, it's so wholesome. This film is wholesome.
Yeah, I agree. And I think so. The only thing that I was also noticing with the magic that was interesting is how easily they do magic in front of humans, and it doesn't seem to matter. Like with the credit card, or she snaps and the time goes back, or he makes an umbrella appear out of nowhere. It's like, are you not concerned about anyone seeing you? Sort of thing. It's very interesting.
I love that they do that in this movie, because I feel like in witch films or witch TV shows, you know, you start off the world knowing the witches are like these all-powerful beings, but then they get scared about mortals finding out. It's like, can't you do something about that? Like in Charmed, that's a whole thing. Like no one can find out that they're witches. But you're like these all-powerful beings, and that's what I like about Nigel. Nigel's like walks around like he's like, who cares what any of you see or don't see? And I like the fact that there's no like stupidity about oh, you can't bend time. She's like, rewind. I didn't like that I did that. Rewind. And then there are things that she lets play because she's like, you know what? I do like that. Like when she blows up on everyone. What are your thoughts on the rewind?
So I love the rewind. I agree with you. I think they do it in a really good way where it's like, yeah, why isn't that in the realm of possibilities? And I think they do such a good job of the score and the soundtrack in general are amazing for this movie. Like so great. And I love the little score that plays when she rewinds that whole night, because what would not feel, it would, like, I think without that score playing with the slow rewind, it wouldn't have hit the same way if they just said redo and then you just snap back to the original day. But I love that it's like, no, let us quickly remind you what all happened that she's now taking back. And it's just so beautiful, and it's so like, it just gets me. I get so sad that she has to undo like one of what would have been probably like the best night of her life, but then she realizes it's not real, and she chooses not to live in that reality. And I think they use it there, and then they use it with the, which I think it's a fun way to use it with the ex-wife as well. Is she basically kills her first, and then she's like, no, let's not do that, and then it sends her to Iceland. And I love that in that part she's like, I probably shouldn't have done that. I went too far, and then does nothing to change it back. And we're like, Isabel, we know you could change that back, and you're just choosing not to. So
She's a witch. She could just kill this woman and not care. But we're living in wholesome bewitched land. And at the beginning of the movie, she shows her watching the character who was like, I shouldn't. But maybe I might. And then she like goes like this and like something just like dips her elbow in gravy as if that's like the worst thing in the world. And so Isabel like kills the ex-wife. And then she's like, but what if I do this? And moves a gigantic fan in front of her and like blows her wig off. And it's just much more like bewitched. That's the bewitched manner of doing it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's calm down. I want to talk about the rewind. I want to talk about like the choice of what she decided to obliterate from memory. And it's Jack Wyatt under the love spell. That was Aunt Clara's idea. And because he's under this love spell, he becomes like the fictional book, like romance novel version of what women want. A man who listens, a devoted man who needs her, who cares about her. And like everything is just so amplified. And I love the bit at the dinner table with them together when they're like vibing, because it's like over the dumbest things. And it's like such a good joke about the rom-com where she's like, I was homeschooled. He's like, I was homeschooled. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like, I know, what are the odds? And it's like they're falling in love over the most common basic things. And I think my favorite line that made me cackle was when he was like, you start, I'll listen. Start from kindergarten. I want to know everything.
There were so many moments where I like cringed at what he was doing to the level of which he was doing, where he was like smelling her purse and everything like that, and like brought her flowers but was like really close to her during it. I can't remember what part, but I just like cringe laughed so hard at one part of that date where he was just, I was like, wow, okay, you're so a lot, but it's so amazing. And it's great. And then he writes her a really bad song. And then they start singing together, and then that turns into a little rock montage that gets them to the end of the date. And I don't even remember the song, but it was amazing.
I forgot the song until you mentioned it because I was so secondhand embarrassed by it that I think I blacked out. They let him hear the news about the rating score under the spell, and then they have him repeat it without the spell.
Yeah, let's talk about the contrast between the rewind and the real life, because I love that in the first one, it's him going like, Isabel, Bobel, and then when he comes in the real without the spell, he's like Jack back Bo back, but like singing his own name for the song. So he comes in on the bike and then goes, take my name off the cappuccino machine, free cappuccinos for everybody. And then we see the reality of it where he comes and he's like, make me 20 cappuccinos and bring me the best one. And it's like, why are you like this? And I love it. I love that it's basically the same lines that he's saying too when he's reading those ratings, but he's just using a different tonation with them, because he says the dog scored higher than me in both of them, but it's a very different delivery, and it's amazing. And I feel like they have a lot of fun with having Will Ferrell just change up his deliveries, both in that scene, those two scenes, and then when she is spelling him and he keeps going, where is thy canine lover? And like all those things that he's doing, and he keeps changing it and he just kills it. He does it so well, and it works so great that I can't really picture many other actors doing it that way, and then also still making me believe that they would be into Isabel.
Like, I feel like this is definitely a movie for like a Jim Carrey, Steve Carell, Will Ferrell. But even Jim Carrey, I feel like would make it too endearing. Like, Will Ferrell does a really good job of hamming it up. But I wanted to know if we have a moment. I would like to talk about the underlying misogyny throughout the whole film.
I think the way you put it earlier about that they're making fun of the old show helps me contextualize it a bit more, because there's definitely certain lines that I'm like, it's weird because she says she wants someone who needs her, and she likes that he's like a hopeless mess, and she likes it when he sweats and all these things, but they do it to such an extreme that it seems like a joke, so that it's like then you kind of get it. But yeah, they definitely do have it in terms of the TV realm, I think is where it's mainly present, in terms of how she gets treated compared to Jack, or to really even Endora, or anything like that, in terms of they cut her lines, the way the agent talks to her and about her to me, that's why I feel so strongly about the scene where she goes off on them and keeps saying, I have something to say, until he finally listens and then calls him out for being a jerk, and just goes off on him, and finally like has like that kind of power. And I feel like that works really well as to why that is the moment when then he respects her. It's sad that that's what it takes, because we already knew at this point that he was attracted to her and she was attracted to him. It goes into the line of what you said, of something magical happened all on its own, where it's kind of just teaching women like, you can like stand up for yourself, like take a stand for those sorts of situations when you're in that world, when you're at the workplace, something like that. Just do it. And if you get fired, or if you have to quit, or whatever it is, like, then leave, because why are you taking this sort of thing? And I get that might be like an unrealistic thing and for some people's worlds, but I feel like for the realm of movies, we can at least instill that kind of hope in people and set that kind of example. And I think they just do a really good job of making that, showing that to be something for the audiences, where it's like, hey, yeah, you wish you had magic, but look at some magic that you do possess that you could be using every day.
I love that. I think it is exactly what you're saying. It's like a hyper realized understanding of what the misogyny was of that time period when they made the show, and then bringing it to the modern world of like, you do not have to be behind anyone. Where Jack Wyatt enters the room, yells at everyone, treats everyone like dog shit, yells at Isabel, treats her like dog shit, make sure everyone hears his temper tantrum. Why? Because he is the least liked character in the show that they rewrote from being about Elizabeth. What? I almost said Elizabeth Montgomery. That's the actress who plays her. They rewrite the show from being about Samantha to being about Darren. They even make it so comical that in the opening credits of the new show, they have smoke covering her face. They completely obliterate her from the story. She's not necessary. They make every joke his. They make him the punchline to everything, and still he fails, and still everyone prefers her. And then she comes in, says what everyone is already thinking, and everyone tells her to calm down, tells her to like lower her voice, fires her. And then at the end, she leaves, and the agent goes over to Jack White and goes, "Are you okay?" Like, he didn't just hand her ass on a silver platter and say like the worst things about her for just existing. And that to me was the best scene, because it was a perfect example of what women went through during that time period, what probably Elizabeth Montgomery went through in the making of Bewitched, and what women still go through in the film industry. And maybe it's because we're both filmmakers that I feel so like connected to that scene. So I think it's really cool, like the character arc of Isabel Bigelow, and how she doesn't even want to be in love with him anymore.
She earlier too has the option where Kristen Chenoweth's character Maria is literally like, you do three things: you take it, you quit, or you get mad. And she chooses get mad, and I love that, because it's one of those things where it's like, let's get angry. I saw this is a little bit of a diversion, but I saw this meme the other day from that 70s show where it's Jackie talking to
Kitty.
Kitty. Yeah, so Jackie talking to Kitty, and Kitty's like, you gotta pick your battles, and then Jackie goes, well, I'm angry and I pick all of them. And I just loved that so much. And I was like, yeah, if you want to pick all of them, pick all of them. Like, I don't think there is such a thing as like needing to worry about picking your battles depending on the situation, sort of thing. So anyway, that was more for you. These are your options. You have a choice. If you're taking it, it's because you're choosing to take it. So choose wisely. And I love that she chooses mad, and it's so fun to then see what happens when she chooses mad, because it's still the fun little kooky messes of, she has him say the line wrong, or she has the dog come to her. It's not like she's, attacking him or like trying to scare him, or, showing up in his bedroom in the middle of the night being like, oh my God, scaring him or anything like that. It's just her messing with him in a way where he looks unprofessional.
And they realize how much they need her. She finally gets to prove herself. Like when Nina comes over with the little piece of paper and she's like, if the dog comes to you again, try this. And it's like such a shit one-liner, but it's actually not at all. It's like very like, I'm glad you don't have a Great Dane. And the way that my favorite bit is that scene where Jack keeps messing it up, messing it up, messing it up, but everyone's laughing, like hysterically laughing, and then she does it right. And the people who are running the show, like everyone in the audience is laughing. And then the people who are running the show are like, oh, she's ruining everything. Jack White is the worst person to work with under the sun. And yet he can do no wrong. They all respect him, even though his career is up in smoke, whatever. But she, who's doing everything right and people actually enjoy, they're like, oh my God, shut up. I'm done. Drop the hammer down on misogyny.
So this is a very small side topic, but I did think it was a really fun choice by the costume designer to have both of them be wearing similar sunglasses, if not the exact same sunglasses, when they're mourning everything that happened. Like you see the scene of her in the cafe. Well, first you see the scene of Jack with the sunglasses on, like he comes in and he's wearing those sunglasses and they just found him at like trying to pick up pennies or something like that. And then it cuts to her at the cafe and she's also just wearing the same, if not, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same sunglasses, if not just men's and women's difference, but it's the same exact style of sunglasses that they're both wearing to mourn not being around each other. And I thought that was a really fun little parallel that I wanted to point out.
Dude, I didn't notice that. Belize. Yes, something about the cafe scene that I love so deeply. Like this movie does a really good job of just like set up and payoff. Like it's a pure comedy. It's written kind of like a sitcom, you know what I mean? But at the beginning of the film, she tells the dad, she's like, I want to sit in the cafe with my friends and have problems that are completely unsolvable. And then in the cafe, when she gets the thing from Kristen Chenoweth, she goes like, there is no solution. I'm here, I'm at the coffee bean, and there is no solution. I loved it.
That's such a good point. I didn't notice that. There you go. Wow, I love that. That's such a fun callback. I also love that even when she's getting mad about like what couples should argue about that's normal, it's what color to paint the bedroom or something like that. And I was like, it's such an innocent example of what couples fight about. And I feel like it fits her character really well. So I want to talk about a little bit the fact that they traumatized Jack in the movie. We see very little of it, but we do see him have a nightmare about it. And like that's also because Uncle Arthur's now messing with him. But there's a little part where I don't know if you've noticed where he talks about how he sees like well, first of all, the trick-or-treaters. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any candy. And he's like, the fact that they're witches is already making him cry because he misses her, but at the same time he's like, I'm afraid of brooms. When I see like candy, I cry. Like all these things, like anything Halloween. He's like, I don't know what's real or what's real. Like I don't know what's real or what's fake anymore. And he's just a traumatized person. Like I feel like his reaction to her is more than justifiable. I feel like it's so normal. I mean, maybe not throwing a stick at her. That's a little bit much. But I get why he's like freaked out that this is an actual witch. And afterwards we just kind of like skip over and we like hear it a little bit what he's saying, that he's just not able to sleep, having nightmares and all these things, trying to deal with the reality of the world he lives in now and not knowing. And I loved seeing that and seeing very little of that still, but I loved seeing that. Honestly, to me, I was picturing, I'm like, if Twilight were gender bent, I feel like that would be how the guy would respond to being told that the girl is a vampire. He'd be like, get away from me. Like, just picture that kind of thing.
It's horrifying. We always see in these magical romances that like the other person, it takes a second, they're like, I love you. You know what I mean? But Jack White is like, no, that's horrifying. That's literally horrifying. But I like the way that Uncle Arthur like undoes it in his brain because he's like super scared of her. And then he's like, oh, she must have made you do this. And he goes, no, that was me. Well, she made you. No, it was my idea. But I love the broomstick scene where she's like, you don't believe me? He's like, of course I do. I know a lot of women who walk around with classical broomsticks. Like, it's just really good one-liners. But yeah, I think something that I think something that's very funny in the TV show is the fact that Darren is constantly just being traumatized by the witches. Like, Samantha always has to protect Darren from like witchcraft. You know? I think that's also why she says she wants a helpless man who needs her, because Samantha in the show is just very protective of Darren because he's a mortal. He's immortal. What can you do? But he's protective of her in the mortal realm. Like, if someone says something about Samantha, I'm gonna need you to back up. Like, they are in love. They're very in love. So, Belize, if you were to make this movie now, what would you do?
That is a very good question because honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I would change it because I just think it's done so well in a way where, like I said earlier, it makes you feel like you've seen the show even if you haven't seen it. And it is a star-studded cast, and it is already pretty modernly done. But I don't even know if there will be updates in that area either. So I don't. This is another one that I don't think I would want to touch.
I have to agree with you. I think it was a perfect remake. Like, I think if you don't like it, then you probably just wouldn't like the show. You know, I think that the way it's meant to be done is the way it's meant to be done. Like, the cast I thought was perfect, chemistry was perfect, the jokes were perfect. It's not that it's a perfect film, like there are, like, you know what I mean? It's cliche, it's cheesy, it's wholesome, it's outdated practical effects, but that's the point. This movie is a perfect homage for the people who love the show, and that's why all the characters in the movie constantly just talk about the show and how much they loved it. So I wouldn't touch it either, to be honest. What do you consider the watchability?
I'd say a good 8 or 9 out of 10, honestly, especially for the Halloween time. I feel like this isn't gonna go away anytime soon because there's still people that watch the show, like Exhibit A being Sam right here. So
Oh, I was named after Samantha.
this is the Samantha you were named after. Okay, you did mention to me that you were named after a witch, but I don't know why I didn't connect the dots.
Little Bewitched anecdote. That's why I love the show so much. My mom is Peruvian, my grandmother's Peruvian, like, a whole family's Peruvian. Samantha's not a common name there. When Bewitched came out, my grandmother was pregnant with my mom, and she wanted to name her after the show because she thought it was just so cool and the character was so cool and very powerful. So my mom is Samantha. I got named Samantha, but what my grandmother wanted was that I would be named Tabitha because in the show Samantha's daughter's name is Tabitha. So my grandma like kept trying to like force my mom, like, what about Samantha had a baby Tabitha? So like I love Bewitched. Bewitched is my everything. It's, yeah, she's my namesake.
I love that. That's such a fun little fact.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
So cool.
I think the watchability of this, I would give this a 6 personally for watchability, just because 6, 7. That's personally. Not that I don't love it. I love it. Obviously, I just made that claim very clear. But in terms of like the grand audience, I think that this is definitely like a sleepover movie, as you described the genre. I don't believe in the chick flick. I believe in the sleepover movie. I think it's a sleepover movie. I think that like the people who are watching it have to be the type of people who, like, you know, just want to see like a quirky, cute little rom-com. The stakes aren't that high, you know, like you never really fear that she's not gonna end up with Jack. You know, like, it's gonna end with a happy story. It's gonna be cutesy. It's definitely a movie that like you can get up and go get a drink and come back. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna miss anything too plot heavy. But no, 6 or 7 is mean. I'd give it like a 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, because it's so funny, it's so incredibly humorous, and the writing is well crafted. I think that the writers of this film, which by the way, this is directed and co-written by Nora Ephron, the incredible like female direct. I'm gonna stop saying female director. The incredible director behind like huge big budget romance films. Like, at one point we have to do a Nora Ephron like homage. But yeah, I think this is an incredibly well done crafted film that will be timeless, and I recommend during the spooky season because it's like pastel spooky.
It's very much a Hugo movie for anyone out there who's looking for those. This is one of the Hugo spooky season movies. I also saw someone mention that practical magic is another one that they would say falls under that category. So maybe we should do that one next, if you would
Oh,
like.
oh hells to the yeah. That's well. First of all, can you describe what Huga means?
Yeah, so hygge is the Danish concept of something that is just cozy and just evokes like warm feelings in you. If you guys ever want, we can do a separate episode going into that. But there are a lot of movies that fit that concept that make you feel that way. That they're simple plots, kind of like you said. So this one falls into that. Pride and Prejudice falls under that category. Anything that's just very pleasing to the eye and just has a certain atmosphere that you're entering, and it's a calming atmosphere. It's not like you're about to enter like Prisoner of Azkaban or something like that.
So next week, practical magic. Another Nicole Kidman, by the way. Yeah, I'm really excited. So thank you for watching, guys. If you think that you could have made this movie differently, like let us know. Like me and Belize are just too attached. Who's to say? But yeah, let us know in the comments down below if you like Bewitched. If you have any recommendations of films we should be watching, like let us know. We're trying to cultivate quite a list for you. But yeah, anything you want to add, Belize?
No, that's it. I'm Belize,
And I'm Sam.
and this is Heartbreaker Films. Tune in next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye.